Welcome back to the podcast where we ask the question, what makes you happy? Our guest today encourages people, young and old, to find their voices and leverage the digital tools available to them to unleash their passions. We have with us Matt J. Hannum from Perth, WA. Matt, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Always nice to have a chat with someone from the same country as well. We're in Australia, so that's same time zones almost.
I know, and so now I can actually tell the audience, the listeners, it's actually the evening for us right now. It's not early in the morning and then super late at night for somebody else on the other side of this recording. So I'm probably going to be a bit more coherent because I'm not wiping sleep out of my eyes. But Matt, pleasure to have you here today to talk all things that do make you happy. Would you mind starting with that? What does make you happy?
That probably changes every day, but I think, to be honest, what does make me happy right now is there's a book in my hand, which is super exciting. I've randomly written and released a children's book, which has some pretty strong meanings behind it, which helps the occasion, but it was never part of my dream to write a children's book. It's just something that happened. Well, it's called The Donkey and the Sea Turtle. I will hold her up. And essentially, I mean, it's a much longer conversation, but it revolves around two characters that I created for myself and actually wrote a story for myself really about a donkey and the sea turtle. So I branded the sort of egoic, hardworking but frustrated, fearful side, the donkey, and then the sea turtle was kind of like, hey man, just go with the flow, like cruising sea turtle. And I decided that my psyche has both. And sometimes I need to be aware of where I'm coming from when I'm doing things. So I literally just wrote it, like journaled a story because it came to mind. And then someone goes, oh, that's a kid's book. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I better create that into a kid's book. So yeah, 18 months later, it's just about to come real, which is kind of, surreal.
And for you, is that's something that makes you incredibly happy just looking at the cover, right?
It makes me super happy because, I've had some mental health challenges in the past, and there's a bit of that sort of theming in there. And it makes me happy because it's something that I'm passionate about supporting and helping other people and sharing through my journey. And there's elements of that in there. And, but also just an 18-month long project, something I knew nothing about, how to go about self-publishing a book, and on the other end of it, here I am, and that makes me pretty happy to know that I've sort of followed through on something like that. So, yeah.
So, as a father, as an entrepreneur, author, all of those things, what would you say to our listeners who are struggling to maybe find what makes them happy in life, whether that's their passion or a connection with someone? Where do we start?
Is finding those things within yourself, things that do make you happy. For me lately, this book is a great example of that. But it's but not so much about the book. It's about just the being creative. And we talked offline just before about that guitar in the corner of your room and how some boredom found its way into your weekend, and you picked it up and you just started playing. And I think that's I think we all have at least one thing in our lives that we can just lose time with. And I think that's the key for everything, because the more you can just spend a bit of time losing time with it, whether it's writing or podcasting or coding or playing guitar or something, or even just sports, it's going to bring you a bit more self-love. And I think if you're in your head a bit much and you're thinking too much about finding that relationship or what's going on with my business, I think there's nothing better than just breaking out of that for a second and getting lost in something.
As we tie up this episode, Matt, I do want to pose a question to our listeners, and it's just backed off the back of what you said there. When was the last time that you as a listener, as a person, were honest with yourself about something that you wanted in your life? Like, I think that's incredibly powerful to think of. Matt, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you sharing all things that make you happy.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. We hope it gives you something to think about on your quest to discover what makes you happy. Make sure to check out whatmakesyyouhappypodcast.com to connect with today's guest and follow us on all our social media platforms, and to stay up to date at what's happening next at What Makes You Happy. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend, and we'll see you next time.